Guys, like, comment, subscribe, share the video, especially if you love college football as much as I do. Well, I saw where Phil Steele, shout out to Phil Steele, he's got some good stuff. I saw online where he had his top 25 released, so what I'm going to do is go through the top 25, talk about what I agree and disagree with briefly, and then I'll give my own top 25 video later today. Number 1 is Georgia. Great pick. Georgia is back-to-back. They've earned the right to be number 1. Undoubtedly. Oh, that's good. Regardless of who they lost at quarterback or defensively or any of that. So, number 2. This pick I don't know about, Clemson. Now, I get here may have most of their guys coming back offense and defensively, but that defense did not play good last year, despite all the talent and all the experience there throughout the season. They gave up a lot of passing yards. They got pushed around by Notre Dame, who lost to Stanford and Marshall. So I don't know about having them in the top 5, let alone number 2, but I feel like they should be number 10 or number 7, 8, 9, or 10. And they lost to South Carolina. No offense to South Carolina. I think they're a pretty good team. I feel like they should be in the top 25 somewhere. But, they don't lose to South Carolina. That's something. They've been doing things that they hadn't been doing. Got pushed around. They lost the Orange Bowl to a Tennessee team. They only got 14 points against a team that had basically no defense pass-wise. But I'm going to let it roll. Phil Steele is respected in the football community, so I'm going to let that go. Number 3, Michigan. Michigan deserves to be number 3, maybe even number 2. I would have Michigan second, to be honest. They've been in the playoffs the last 2 years. They've dominated their rival in the last 2 years. They've won at least 12 games or more in the last 2 years. In the last 2 years, they've only lost 1 regular season game. And they come from behind, lost to Michigan State. I said lost because Michigan State was down. They had to come back and win that game. Number 4, Alabama. Now, I'm going to talk about 5, Ohio State, because I think Ohio State deserves to be ranked a little higher than Alabama just because of how they finished last year. They actually had the same record, 11-2. But Ohio State ended up losing to the national champion, Georgia, and they lost to Michigan. And really, it was a closer game than what the scoreboard said. And yes, I'm admitting that as a Michigan fan. Shout out to both Michigan and Ohio State. They had a few big runs to kind of seal it, but it was closer than the scoreboard says. I mean, a lot of Michigan fans won't even say that. They won't even admit that, but I'm admitting that. But Alabama, I understand talent-wise as far as who their head coach is. He's more experienced than Ryan Day, so I understand why he's number 4, so I got no problem with that. Speaking of the Big Ten, Penn State's number 6. That might be a little high, but they got a lot of guys coming back. And I like their defensive coordinator, Manny Diaz, from Miami. I know all about him. He beat us twice. So I have no problem with that pick. USC, number 7. That seems about right. USC deserves to be in the top 10, excuse me. Dusty in here. USC's got Caleb Williams coming back. They have a really good offense. They went back to the transfer portal and they recruited also. They got some defensive players. The reason why I wouldn't have USC in the top 5 is because of the lack of defense. You lost to Tulane because you had no defense. But who knows? Number 8, Florida State, baby! That seems about right. Florida State, number 8, somewhere in the late top 10. They did win 10 games last year. They lost 3 games to the only 3 ranked teams they played all year. Now, LSU, of course, who's actually number 9, they did end up being ranked. And I thought LSU might have started the season ranked last year because of the talent that they have on that team. And speaking of LSU, they played LSU in that season opener. So we'll see what happens there. I've already given a prediction on that game. You want to look for it, find it on my channel. Number 9, LSU. LSU, talent-wise, they could be higher. The only problem I have with LSU, there's 2 problems I have. I think LSU's defense will be one of the best, if not the best in the country as far as talent. Harold Perkins there. My problem with LSU is if they play another team who's also good on the line of scrimmage, if they have a good D-line, the other team they have is a good D-line, but what if they have a good offensive line? LSU does not have a good offensive line. I know they went to the transfer portal. I know they went and got 2 guys to replace the 2 that they lost. But no coaching changes. Nothing major really changed outside of that. And the fact that LSU gave up 45 sacks? Something like that. And Jaden Daniels got hurt, who's coming back. That's not good. Now I don't think LSU's offensive line will be that bad again. What was it, 115th in the country? But I don't think it'll be fixed for the most part of the year. I think that'll keep LSU down this year. And to be honest, I wasn't impressed with Jaden either with his ability to throw. Of course he can run. He's a good athlete, but can he throw? I didn't see that. And that's part of the reason because the offensive line. Number 10, Notre Dame. I think this is a little high for Notre Dame. They lost a lot of defensive starters. But they have Sam Hartman, and Coach Freeman. I think he's a good coach. So top 10 is pretty respectable. That's fair. Number 11, Texas. Texas, that seems about right as far as talent. I wouldn't put Texas in the top 10, even as a Texas fan, because Texas hasn't really shown me anything as far as making them an elite team outside of the talent. 12, Texas A&M. That seems fair, I guess. I love hiring Bobby Petrino, but will Jimbo Fisher actually let him run the offense as the offensive coordinator? We'll see. 13, Wisconsin. That seems a little high for me. Wisconsin didn't really show me much last year. I get they're bringing back their whole team, but Luke Fickell is a new coach. He's trying to change up that whole offense. Will that help or hurt Wisconsin in year one? So I don't know if I would have them in the top 15. Maybe top 20, late 20s. I don't know about that. But we'll see. Because you're changing the whole offense, that could help your team or hurt your team. Because your team is so used to just smash mouth running the ball with a game managing quarterback. But we'll see. Luke Fickell's a good coach, so we'll see what happens. 14, Washington. That seems about right, I guess, but that seems a little low for me, to be honest. I would have Washington in the top 10 instead of Notre Dame because who they have coming back at quarterback and overall as a team, they're very good. Oregon, 15th. That seems fair. That's fair. Their defense has got to get a lot better, but their offense with Bo Nix healthy, look out. 16, Utah. That seems okay. I guess they have most of their defense coming back. They have Cameron Rising, but he's also coming off a nasty injury in that Rose Bowl, and I guess he wasn't healthy throughout the end of the season. But we'll see. 17, Iowa. I would not have Iowa anywhere near my top 25 because of the lack of offense that they've had over the years. Their defense is pretty darn good. But again, that offense and the quarterback they got from Michigan was a guy that had a hard time completing a pass. So I wouldn't have them up there. Oregon State, 18th. I'd have them in the top 15, really. I mean, they're not the most talented team, but they're well coached. They play hard, and they're good on both sides of the ball. So I would have them a little higher than that. Tennessee, that seems about right, number 19. You lost Hendon Hooker. You lost those wide receivers. The biggest question mark for me is can they fix that defense? That's my issue. Outside of that, they should have a pretty good year. 20, Oklahoma. Talent-wise, Oklahoma belongs in the top 20, but they did finish 6 and 7. However, even as a Texas fan, like I admitted on my channel, that will be their hardest regular season game outside of the Bama game that they win. So if they finish in the top 20, top 15, that wouldn't surprise me for Oklahoma. They're a winning team. They're a winning program most of the time. So, yeah. 21, North Carolina. That seems fair. 22, Toledo. Good for Toledo. 23, Pitt. I don't know about having them in the top 25. But again, they have a lot of players coming back. Their defense is always hard-nosed, smash mouth, hard to deal with. 24, UTSA. Okay, but 25, TCU. That is so disrespectful. Come on, man. They made it to the national championship. I know they lost players. They lost Max Duggan. But the quarterback that's coming back was supposed to be the guy had he not got hurt last year when Max Duggan got a chance to play. So that means he's better than Max Duggan probably. And they hit the transfer portal real hard. I would have TCU number 15 or something. 25 is just too low. How do you have Pitt, Toledo, and UTSA, and even Iowa ahead of TCU? They got screwed over, to be honest. But that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? We'll see,